In the beginning, I was white knuckle gripping the sucker. And it was like, hey, man, you got to swim upstream in Whitewater Rapids. It was like, okay, great. That's what I'll be doing until the end of time.
All right, guys. Greg just said he's good. And from the conversation I'm pumped about today on the Necessary Entrepreneur, I'm sure we're going to find out in life that's the approach it's taken to conquer this entrepreneurial journey, the spirit, being an author, being a co-founder with a family of salad dressings that a lot of us have known to see the brand. So what a way to start this, in that someone says, no, I'm good. That's like saying in life, no problem.
Yeah.
So, hey, from your website, there's a quote, and it says, people are capable at any time in their lives of doing what they dream of. It's from Paulo the Alchemist.
Yep.
Why is that quote there?
One, because it's true. And two, because when you have the courage to follow your dream, just like in the book, the universe conspires in your favor. And so the first step is basically acknowledging that you even have a dream and that you actually want to pursue it, no matter how crazy it may be or may not be. And so I think The Alchemist, for me, that book and a lot of those quotes, it was so important because my journey was one, no food background, no salad dressing background, no business background, don't come from money. Dad's not in business. He's in nonprofit work. And I had an idea and I wanted to see if it could work. And I wanted to go pursue this dream. And it was a journey. It was, like Joseph Campbell says, it was a hero's journey. And, you know, you have to go on this unbelievable, wild ride, and it may work and it may not work. And in my case, for the first phase of my journey, it did not.
Which that's the story, and we're going to hit on this book a ton today. But
Yeah.
in November of 25, is it the first book you've written?
Yeah.
All right, so it's called Undressed. And I love the title is Undressed, but it's the unfiltered story of my failed American dream and how it led to success.
Yeah.
That's two ideas at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've realized personally, I hate it that this is the outcome and the fact, but failure is the only mainstay and ingredient that I've found on the road to being really successful at something. It's the thing that will always show up.
It is a muscle, right? It's a muscle that tests how far you are willing to go or what are you capable of accomplishing. Because the failure component is there every day. In every decision you have to make, there are consequences that could lead to failure. The other piece is pain, right? There's only one universal language across all species, and it ain't love, it's pain. And so if you can figure out how to endure pain and learn from failure, you're going to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. It's just about the question of what are you willing to endure?
Why don't we know that before we start? Why don't we know the level that we're willing to endure before we start out on these journeys?
I think we know. Mm-hmm. I think I thought I knew what I was willing to endure or how much I was willing to. And I was. I mean, I was deadly afraid I was going to be a complete failure in my life. And so I was willing to do anything to test it and try it and change my stars. So when I was going through the process of liquidating my 401k, taking out 25 credit cards, selling my car, refining my home, yeah, I'm willing to do anything to make this work. But you don't actually know what that means because you're only saying that within the context of your understanding of that first part of the journey. Because once you pass those tests, you level up. And then it's a new set of failure.
Where's that DNA come from? Does it because one of the journeys I'm on, I don't know if everyone should start a business. I don't know if the entrepreneurial journey, if everyone is capable, if they're willing. I don't know. Inside of me, deep inside, the ultimate optimist and believer in the human spirit thinks that we all are, like almost all of us.
Yep.
But there's a lot of people who fail and throw in the white towel and just never take it up again, and that sucks because the only benefit that we receive from failure showing up in our life is we learned what didn't work. And the only worthwhile purpose for going through that is we're going to pick it up and learn and move forward and do it better again.
Yeah.
So should we all, the entrepreneurial journey, if you have a thought, because you said in the beginning you wanted to see what was possible or what was that's a hard journey.
Hard is an understatement. Hard is
the best word I have on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's no actual word for it because you can't. Viktor Frankl talks about you can't judge another person's suffering because you don't understand the process of what they're dealing with. The same is true from an entrepreneurial obstacle perspective because it's directly tied to your ability to deal with pain, to deal with suffering, to overcome obstacles. And so it really, if you reframe it, and that's kind of what I try and do in this book. Yes, my first American dream, as it's defined by mainstream media, I guess, was a failure. But in reality, what I figured out was that is not actually the American dream at all. That is a part of it. It is the pursuit of the American dream, which is actually the American dream. Because in that pursuit is where you figure out what you're made of, what you're capable of, where is your limit, and then you get to evaluate, stare yourself in the mirror, and go, okay, I'm okay with that limit, or I'm not okay with that limit. I want to figure out how to increase that limit or improve that limit.
Have you figured out when it's okay to quit on something? Right? Because that's about this limit conversation.
It took me so I'm on a book tour and somebody asked me that, right? Because we're hardwired. I'm hardwired. You don't quit things. You don't quit. You just don't quit. And I had to do a lot of kind of studying on this concept of quitting. And so what I came to the understanding of was basically retreating to regroup so that you may lose that battle, but you're gonna win the war. Mm-hmm. And so changing the perspective on the word of quitting and saying, here is the goal. The current tactic I'm taking is not working. Still have this goal. Mm-hmm. I think I need to regroup and figure out a better plan to still hit the goal, right? Still win the war. And so the quitting thing that's a tough one because I'm real stubborn. and I don't want to quit, and I'll take it to the limit.
Because entrepreneurism
Yeah.
requires grit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is continuing to keep going in the face of massive failure, rising up with courage in the face of fear that we all have, and to win, really to win and have a chance to have the outcome, to have our life have the outcome that we intend it to be, to actually have a chance to live this dream. We do have to tell ourselves we can't quit.
Yeah.
I know from touching on the book somewhat, and I'm pumped about finishing the read, because you can find it on Amazon. I believe you did the Audible. I don't know if you recorded it.
No, I did. Yeah.
Kudos, man. How'd you overcome? I talked to a lot of people who wrote books, and the publisher steered them away from doing the Audible themselves. So how'd you overcome that?
I'm very opinionated. And so in the publishing process, and we've created a lot of products and we've launched a lot of products. So I'm very familiar with the creation of something from nothing and then launching it and then finding out a way to sell it. And what do retailers want or not want? What's their split, etc. So I started looking at some of these publishing deals, and it was a lot of intellectual property you give away and a lot of opinions you got to listen to. And I wasn't really interested in any of that. And so I got a couple offers to do what's called like hybrid publishing, where you split the costs up front and they get less intellectual property, but
It's more the rev.
the author gets more intellectual property and there's like a break even point. And so I was very excited about that process initially. And then there was a lot of opinions I didn't agree with in the beginning conversations. And I go, I'm not writing this book for the opinions of a publisher. I'm writing this book because I believe leadership is leading by example and leaving things better than when you found them. I have something to say, a story that can be educational, inspirational, motivational. There's learning lessons there. And I'm not changing it because my story is too aggressive or offensive for an editor somewhere.
How long did it take you to arrive at that conversation you just had for 30 seconds? That you're not interested. That's a level of confidence, but at the same time, humility from the past lived experience. But how'd you arrive there? Because it's not an aggressive, arrogant perspective. It's like, that's a guy with a vision. He's learned a lot and he sees it the way he wants to see it. And he's willing to put in the pain to travel the journey. So let's go.
Yep.
Is it just from this experience, from this business and life experience? Is that it? There's no way to learn it other than that pre-production?
No, because I think one of the biggest learning lessons I took from the journey was anytime I didn't trust my gut, and I trusted an expert or an advisor
or a consultant
or a consultant, they know better than I do. Sit down, little man. Let the big dogs take over. Everybody wants that to be true because that's easy. They have the answers. All I have to do is pay them and I get the results I need. I'll do that all day. It never worked out. And then when you reflect back, you go, I had the answer. I put my hand up. I told them I thought it was this or that or this. They told me to pound sand. And now here I am in a bigger predicament because I didn't just do it the way I thought it should be done. And so with the book, there was I wasn't trying to make $1 million from it or get it in every bookstore in the country. I wanted the story told the way I wanted to tell it. And I wanted the learning lessons available for the people that wanted to learn from them. And so I was willing to commit my own funds and time and process in figuring that out. But it took, I started and built that company for 15 years. So it took me 15 years to get to the point of, I'm not interested in that.
So how do we I don't read as much as I should, but I read a decent amount. I think more than the average person. But Ray Dalio wrote the book Principles, a few years ago, and I did a book study with it with some on my leadership team, and that's a thick, dense book. And there's a lot of ideas.
Yeah,
and, but the thing that he, inside of his, enormous private equity company, they had this idea about a believability rating, and how to know who's right.
Right.
So for those of us that are proclaimed stubborn, like you said,
yeah,
how do we know when to listen?
I go back to the last of our natural animal instincts it's just that gut feeling you have. I think it's one of the last survival instincts we have, because your brain will try and rationalize it all. Listen to the experts. Let's bring in a panel of people. Let's, put in a decision matrix. Let's think through it all the way it needs to be thought through, right? So that's what the brain does. The heart wants it a certain way. This would be great if it worked out like this. This is what I want to have happen. And then your gut just knows. Your gut knows if the person's bad. It's like kids, little babies. Go up to a little baby. They're going to know if you're a psycho or not.
Is that what happens? I can tell myself, well, I guess today's a psycho day.
Right. You're like, something's up with this dude.
Yeah. So what do we learn on the way up and the way down?
Well, the way down is all the stuff that matters. I don't know if the teachings on the way up really matter.
But that's the stuff that feels good.
Oh, it's all the good stuff. It is all the good ego stuff. It's all the positive energy. It's actually almost a trick. It gets you so going and so motivated that when things start getting hard, you keep all of the positive stuff that happened in your mind, and you're fighting to get that back. I guess it's almost like golf. I don't play a lot of golf, but
what a terrible game. What a terrible game.
Everybody always says like they're going for that one time they hit the perfect shot or something.
Gosh, that game pisses me off so much. So I choose not to play it. I think I've learned that in life. I take life very serious. I try not to take myself serious all the time, but I like arguing with people in these things they say, like, don't take yourself too serious. It's like, well, we could sit down and have a 3-hour chess conversation around that idea.
Yeah.
Because, man, when I don't take life serious, it doesn't really go well. Doesn't.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. Yeah, well, and isn't that funny? Because it's like, well, we're supposed to be happy-go-lucky. We're supposed to be happy and have fun and all that. And what I say is like, yeah, well, if I go on vacation and somebody convinces me to go play an $11 game of putt-putt, I'm just going to be honest, I want to win. I want to win.
Yeah.
And every time I step up to that stupid little piece of whatever at the front of the green, you have a little fountain here and the little, rope-de-dope over here, and you're not trying to send it out. I mean, I just want a hole in one every time, and I walk up to the hole every single time, and I want a hole in one.
Yeah.
And if I get beat on that hole, I'm not going to be happy. I take life very serious, and I look around. And when it's time to have fun, like if I go to a concert, I'm not a guy that goes out and does a lot of social things. But if I go and have a concert, like I'm serious about the concert.
Right.
I'm serious about listening.
Right.
Why is it important to be authentic? You believe that? Why is it?
I think life is too short, to pretend. I'm not a pretender. I don't have time to pretend. I think pretending sets you up for failure, whether that's in relationships or business or anything in life. And so being authentic, yeah, you may not have 100 friends, but you're going to have 2 or 3 really good ones.
It's all that matters.
Right. You may not have 100 businesses, but you'll have one or two really good ones. You may not have 100 surface level nonsense conversations at a party, but you're going to have one or two good ones. And I think those actual meaningful connections or experiences, those are the things we're supposed to be doing. That fills the fuel tank. It's not a bunch of surface level nonsense. That doesn't do anything. That's mentally draining.
I think it's mentally draining, but there was a moment in society with social media and the world where that did work for a while, for a minute. It worked.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
did. It feels like we're at a moment where the gig's up. I don't know if that's true
Yeah.
or not, but it feels like the gig's up because there's too many resources
Yeah.
to see really who someone is and what they're doing now.
I could not agree more.
So you're a guy that you had a 15-year journey on the dressings and Tessemaes, and obviously you're very passionate about it. You have the image behind you from one of the dressing bottles, and it looks like it's an anchor, and I don't know what that's an image of in life. But it seems like you believe staying true to your mission is very important for life.
Yeah.
Why is that? A lot of people, Steve Jobs, one of the most important things he taught those around him, his elite leadership team, was the idea of staying focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've realized now in these 45 years, going on 46, I can talk about being authentic. I can be very serious about things. I can write the books and start the businesses and travel the journey of success and failure. But at the end of the day, if I can stay focused on an idea, and then the tactical necessities that are important for me to achieve my goal, if I stay focused and don't quit, it's going to happen. Like, that's the entire entrepreneurial journey that I just wrap into it every day. And I know that. So no matter what failure shows up, if I stay focused on the necessary tactics that I know that are going to lead to the successful outcome that I want for my life, I'm going to have the intended result.
Yeah.
Is that how simple it is? I don't want you to say in my terms, but that seems like that's how simple it is. And me taking this idea of staying true to your mission.
Yeah, I think it's staying true to the mission. And then I also think it's layering in what I call strategic improvisation. So the course that you take or the roadmap that you have may not be the correct one. But if you keep the goal in front of you, you will get there eventually. And if you stay focused on it and you continue to prioritize it, you will get there.
Yeah.
And I journaled every day, and I had a very specific format of how I prioritized everything while maintaining the correct goals. And I have every single one from 2006 when I first started doing it. So I have all of them through the first couple businesses and then the whole salad dressing journey. And you just go back and it's like, here was the goal. Here was my critical and urgent list for it. Here's the beneficial and important list for it. Here are the time slots in which I prioritize these things. And the day is this. And I go to bed when this is done, or I'm at least touching it. I'm planting seeds. I'm at least going to move an inch forward in the right direction. That goes back to focus. And then it also goes back to, with other people, it's a distraction, right? They just do the thing that's urgent and it may not be critical. Or they do a bunch of critical stuff, but the timing of it's wrong. And so understanding how to prioritize it while working towards a goal, that's all there is.
Does that just come from learning from the journey, from the experience?
Yeah. It's just you check off the box and you do not stop until it's checked.
So why does failure happen? So if we can sit here and have this conversation about keeping going and when should we quit, and then I'm sure a ton of the topics and things we can learn from the book, why do we fail?
Well, what I have figured out through my own reflections, only for myself, is failure is like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder.
Mm.
And so the failure side for me, that part of the journey, I incorrectly thought it was the whole thing.
Mhm.
And it wasn't.
You
That
thought it was the end of the race, end of the game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's a game, right? Games are 4 quarters. I thought that journey was the 4 quarters. In reality, it was the first quarter. And I didn't realize that until after I removed myself from it and go, wow, I have a lot to give. I have a lot to do. I'm moving into my second quarter here.
Yeah, if we're going to keep going, I just love the conversation because, in all these podcasts and people we talk to, we touch on the nuance of things. And the reality is that what is failure? Like, isn't failure just like the day that you just decide, like, I'm done? Like, that's it. And then
that is literally it.
Right. But then the idea is that might not even be failure because then, like, what are you going to do and take all that experience that you've had in life? Like, what are you going to do with it now? So when a business ends, is that even failure? Like, does the word even apply? It might not apply.
I think the only real failure there is not so much a business ending or anything else. It's simply you completely giving up.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, because Maurice Forleo in the book, Everything's Figure Outable, she actually removed the term. She says that it's not failure. It's just learning.
Yeah, I believe that.
Right. But man, it took a lot of the F word for us to then believe that. Because how many times through your journey did your brain have a conversation with that word of failure or feel it? A lot, didn't it?
Every day. But that went back to, for me, my greatest fear was the fear of failure. And so we did a lot of personality analysis and mapping. And what that actually is, it's not the fear of failure, it's the fear of shame from failure.
Mm.
So that's what I was running from. And so going back to your previous statement, isn't it all just learning? Well, I was running from the fear of shame, from failing in other people's eyes, not my own.
How'd you get over that?
Failing publicly, being exposed to all of my every little fear I had exposed. And so then you had nowhere to go. You're sitting there and you're like, oh man, everything I've ever worried about or been scared about is here. And you're still alive, still have your health. Your kids don't even know, right? Yeah. They still love you. They want to watch a movie. They want you to coach their sports. You still get to watch the sunrise and the sunset. There's still dinner. And so then it's your responsibility to use it as a learning lesson because, I mean, what are you going to be if you quit in front of your children and just give up? That's no way to do it.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you like these types of conversations, be sure to follow The Necessary Entrepreneur on your favorite platform so you never miss out on future content.
I'm already a huge Greg Vetter fan. I kind of knew I was going to be. But I was sitting here as you were talking. I was listening, like hopefully a lot of other people do, and go spend a few dollars and, the nickels they've rubbed together to buy your book and listen. But I think the most important, I'm sitting here learning in what I've appreciated most about my failure, the big ones, is it cleaned out the BS people in my life.
Dude, they leave quick. And they start talking trash quick too.
Because I don't think they would have filtered out without it.
Totally agree.
What do you hope we take away when we read this book? I'm hoping it's a book from those that want to start the journey, that are maybe the Mark and the Gregs of years ago when we started. But I hope it's also for a guy like me.
The reason I actually wrote the book, and I didn't want to write one, my performance coach convinced me to do it. And he's a high profile performance coach. He deals with a lot of pro athletes and famous people. And he goes, dude, I spend 99% of my time convincing people to not write a book because they don't have anything to say. And they're doing it almost as an ego tribute. You have actual information that can help people. And so when I realized it was the book I wanted to read at 24, and the book I was searching for at 30, and then the book I needed to read at 40 and 41, it has every phase of the journey in there to give perspective and to give the learning lessons from the beating I took. And so I hope people use it as a pressure test on whether or not to do the journey. Are you prepared? If this is what it's going to be, are you prepared for that?
Because isn't that what it's going to be? Like, it's going to be that.
It is that. And people told me that, you know, the old gray hairs, they're like, dude, you don't know what you're signing up for. I'm like, I want it. They're like, I don't think you want it. I'm like, I want it. And then as I'm just getting beat, I would see those guys, they go, how's it going? I'm like, it's everything you said it was going to be. They go, yeah, I know. That's why I got gray hair, brother. And so it's a pressure test, 1. 2, it's a field guide for the people that are in the thick of it to avoid some of the mistakes that I made. And then for the later stage dreamers, entrepreneurs, leaders, it is a perspective test of where are you spending your time? Are you prioritizing the right stuff if this stuff happens? And are you prepared to pick yourself up and move into the second quarter and not just lay down in the mud crying, waiting for somebody to come pick you up?
They're not coming. As Mel Robbins says,
They're not coming.
they're not coming. And even the ones who, the few people in our lives that want to come, most people, I'll say this, all the people that haven't traveled the journey, they can't help.
They're not strong enough to pick you up.
That's it.
They can come and check in on you. Are you okay?
Shoulder to
But-
cry on, I guess.
Right. But they're not picking up my 215 to 220 pound butt and putting it on their shoulder and carrying me out of there.
Or writing the $75,000 check. This isn't about going to the grocery store and buying you groceries to eat. That's not going to help.
Right.
It's about, do you have the 75 grand that's necessary for me to like dig out of this hole just to get back to the normal level of surface again? And then even when that happens, it may happen again.
Yeah.
So what about this idea of then mentorship? I have some, you know, those of us that have had some semblance of success, whatever that is, right, that have achieved some level or percentage of our goal. We have some other people around us that have probably have achieved more. So I've learned in life, man, I really have to surround myself with people that have come before me or come after me that have achieved more than I currently have achieved, because you need to learn from those folks. And what's this idea of having a mentor, of having your own personal board of directors? Is that something that you, because you have your own productivity coach, that may be the thing.
Yep. I love the concept. I unfortunately never found anybody.
Why didn't you? Because I didn't either. Is it are we getting in our own way, or what's the problem?
Everybody's different. And so you need someone that complements the gaps that you have. And I think that's really, really hard to find. And so what I did, there were momentary mentors, right? People I learned stuff from. There were books I read that I used as mentors that I would refer back to as guides, learning lesson guides. But what I realized was like not a lot of people had gone through or decided to take the risk that I took and were willing to risk what I was willing to risk to change my stars. I'm sure there's some people out there. I just didn't find them.
As you're talking about that, I'm like, the only way is through.
Yeah.
Mentor away, advise away, consult away. But all that I guess we're reaching for is like looking for the person to convince us to keep going. Why can't you do that on your own?
It's that. I mean, I've been happily helping some younger guys that reached out to me that I have some insights for, because I have a particular set of skills in terms of enduring hell in a handbasket and navigating the storm. And so I'm glad to be able to give perspective. I try not to tell them what to do. I try and tell them how to prepare to make the correct decision to do what they feel is right. And so, but the only way is through. And the only way you learn is trial by fire or baptism by fire. You know, like you can tell people all day, don't push that button.
But don't they just have to push the button because that's what we had to do?
Yep.
When you're mentoring these folks that are younger than you, are you just trying to keep them alive in the journey?
No. For some, I think it's understanding the life cycle of the journey they're in. Because I don't think every journey is supposed to be a life's work. I think as I look back on my own, we had so many different times where we could have ended that journey. But I was in pursuit of something else. I wanted almost the full entrepreneurial experience without realizing what that meant. And it prepared me for today, and I wouldn't change any of it. But some of the people, you know, I was talking to one guy the other day, and he's wants to go to this gigantic revenue level and sell it for this gigantic amount. But he's paper rich. He's not real rich. There's no money in his actual bank account. I go, well, how much you got in your bank account? He's like, well, nothing really. I go, dude, you're talking about these gigantic numbers, and that's awesome if it happens. If it happens. If right now the journey is supposed to end and this can be it, you need to understand this with a different perspective of the purpose of this journey for the next one. And he was like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. I never thought about it like that. I only thought about this being this and making this much money and then never working ever again. I'm like, you're 30. You're gonna be working again, brother. So
a lot. If you want to do anything big, you're going to be working again a lot.
Yeah.
Do you have any passive income in your life? I ask that because I laugh at that word all the time.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what it means either. I think it's a bunch of foo-foo crap in the air that I guess maybe 3 people got lucky enough that somebody convinced them to buy Bitcoin and it's worth X amount of dollars, or they think like, hey, I'm going to go flip a house, or hey, I'm going to go buy some income generating properties, and it's like, that's not passive.
Yeah,
like invest $3 million in an S&P fund, and I guess you can think it's passive, but do you think Warren Buffett approaches his investment journey to be a billionaire as passive? No, he's engaged with it every day.
Everything I'm engaged with. So we have a bunch of different businesses, and I touch them every single day. I don't have any like random AI generating income. If it's a real thing, I'd love to have that.
Yeah, maybe we're the dumb ones here. I don't know, right?
Yeah, man, free money through, you hear a lot of people talking about drop shipping products and never seeing them and this and that. I'm like, okay, like, sure, I'm open to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everything I'm involved in right now, I'm involved in.
When do you get to a place in life, whatever the journey is, like, when's it enough?
I think that's a wonderful question. And what I try and do and what I try and think through is it's enough now. But I also am open to whatever comes my way naturally unfolding. And so that's one of the tests now when I'm thinking about launching a new product or participating in a new company or whatever. Does it naturally unfold? Or am I going to have to swim upstream again? Because if I just let go and it naturally unfolds the way it's supposed to, I'll participate in it, right? Like, here's my idea. Is it worth my time? You pressure test it. Seems good. Can we have somebody make it for us? Found a good partner. Does the packaging come together? It does. Do we have a good distribution model for it? We do. And so those instances I now just kind of let unfold. Whereas in the beginning, I was white knuckle gripping the sucker. And it was like, hey, man, you got to swim upstream in Whitewater Rapids. It was like, okay, great. That's what I'll be doing until the end of time. I don't do that anymore.
But is it more important for you to say yes or no?
No. I am the king of no's. If I show up to your event, I care about you. If I participate in a business venture, I care about it. If you see me doing something, it's because I thought it through and it's with intention. I am not saying yes to make you happy. That's not happening. That also took a lot of learning to be able to just be ruthless with no.
Do you think that's a part of the journey where you needed to say yes so you could learn and fail and figure it out to get to the point when you know that the answer is no?
100%. I mean, I watched that Jim Carrey movie years ago, Yes Man.
Mhm.
I tested that in our company for, I don't know how long, maybe 6 months. I'm like, I'm just saying yes. No matter what it is, I am only saying yes. And we needed it at that phase.
I think that's what's tough for so many people that don't have their mindset on the correct map or the right journey or the right trajectory, because there's so many mixed contextual opinions about these things. Like, I think I don't follow that many gurus, but a guy like Tony Robbins has been around forever and he's evolved again. There's something that's happening to the 60-something-year-old Tony Robbins. I've never been to an event, but something's happening to him in a way that it seems like he's the best version of himself that I've ever even seen from afar. But I would watch some of his events and he's getting people to say yes. And I'm like, is that the beginning of the journey? Is he trying to get them to be at the beginning to start saying yes to get up? I don't know. So I think it's a very confusing world for so many folks.
I think it's dependent on the person.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're naturally a no person and you need to figure out how to say yes, then you need to do the Jim Carrey yes man test for 1 month and just say yes to stuff. Because I know people that they assume too much. Everything is a bad idea. Everything isn't going to work. They need yes. I'm naturally a yes guy. And so I needed to learn no.
Mm-hmm. That probably makes you, though, when you say yes, it probably makes you go all in on the yes, though. Like, yeah. Like Greg's a guy that when he says yes, it's like yes. And so who's in it with you? They better get ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because that yes is hard.
I tell people that. I go, if you ask for my advice, and you want me in this thing, whatever it is, I'm in. And I don't know if you want all that.
Yeah, right. Would you sitting here when the journey started, you go to college, you play lacrosse, and you're beating people up on defense, and see the smile comes back because you really enjoyed that. Would this conversation have helped that, Greg?
A little bit. I was so focused on changing my stars that I was I was willing to do anything. Anything. And so I think this conversation would be helpful because I could look at us and be like, all right, that's how I feel. I'm willing to do anything. Those guys did anything. They took it to the max. And these are the learning lessons. So I think I definitely, if I was watching this, I definitely would be like, all right, I want to find out more. Let me see how I can relate. And forever, that's every book I ever read. I was searching for information to help me get to my goal, to figure out how I could accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. And there weren't a lot of books out there that are like, yeah, you're a regular guy with no money, no business background, no nothing. This is how I did it, right? Everything was like, I went to Harvard Business School and my case study was comparing Nikon cameras to running shoes. And then I decided to start Nike. You're like, well, I didn't go there. I think he actually went to Stanford. But the point being, I couldn't relate to Bezos being a quant hedge fund manager or Steve Jobs being at the forefront of the computing boom or Phil Knight with Nike. I read the books. I tried to find the learning lessons. But like, how does a regular dude with salad dressing change his stars or any business for that matter? Like, how do you do it?
Isn't it just making a decision and taking massive action?
Every day.
That's it.
That's literally it. And it's having the confidence in yourself that you will figure out the answer no matter how many days it takes.
And then there's no wasted time.
There's no wasted time. Everything is just, this is my goal. This is what I'm going after. I'm totally committing. I'm going to be completely consumed. I will sacrifice anything.
Regardless of what comes.
Yeah. And I'm going to find a way no matter what.
It's funny you said that you thought maybe that young Greg, not saying you're not young, the younger Greg,
Right.
He would have said, maybe I'm just a regular guy. But it's so fascinating to listen to the people that have achieved the dream and become the billionaires. So many of them, do you know what all they want is? To be the regular guy.
Yep.
They want to live an extraordinary life, but they just want to be the regular guy. Mm-hmm. And so if life is bookended with those two things, man, it's just massive action. I'd rather do it. I don't need to be out here we do these podcasts and you write the book and there's something inside of us that says, yeah, you're really kind of a good person if you decide to write a book. You really are. Like, even if you're Stephen King and it's all about death, maybe. But you're a good person. If you're writing a book about your journey, there's something about an appreciation about the hard that you want to share it.
Yeah.
And then when you want to share it because you're like, I just want to help some folks. And you're there too, because if you're at a place where you're writing a book, you've done enough. Life's been enough. The businesses have been enough. Life's probably enough. There's more that's going to come your way. But what would be your keynote in 2025? I don't know if you ever get on a stage or people pay you big money, or I don't make a habit of it, but at times it comes my way. What would be the keynote for 2025? Because I think as we evolve, I think my keynote would be different in 27 than it is going to be for 25. I think.
I'll give you a couple. I've done a couple. One was failure to growth. That was one. I was blessed enough to give the speech at the team meeting for the Washington Commanders 2 weeks ago before their game. And that one was two quotes. One, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in times of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. And then the other is this theme, this Latin phrase, fortitudine vincimus, by endurance we conquer. And so I think if you really want to boil it down, it's understanding you must endure. And that is the test of you and your journey, and your character, and your values, how you lead. Do you lead by example? Do you leave things better than when you found them? And I think that really is, when I think about all the stuff I've learned, all the hardship I've been through, all the wins I've had, it's just about, how do you show up? How do you lead? Do you leave things better than when you found them? Do you lead by example? Can you endure?
So there's no doubt you have a personal philosophy that I'm sure it could be one word. You know, a guy's invoking Latin. I mean, there's some depth there. He's read some things. He's done some. It's like, why can't we talk about the guys from 2000? Why do we have to go all the way back? See, a personal philosophy is important, but what I've found is it's important for you to know it and believe it so much, for it to be so deep down in your DNA, you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Right? How does someone establish that? If we're helping people with this journey, if you're going to mentor and you're going to give a keynote, or, you know, we jump on a podcast, like, how do we help people develop their personal philosophy that's going to lead to them living a better life, maybe the life they're thinking about?
I think the first thing goes back to one of your first questions, which is just being authentic. I think everybody's trying to be somebody else. They're trying to take somebody else's philosophy or their learning lesson and apply it to themselves. And there's little bits and pieces that you can absorb. You have to figure out what you stand for and why. What do you stand for and why? And then you begin to test it. Do I actually care about leaving things better than when I found them? Do I actually care about leading by example? And you'll know in your gut if you do, or your heart. And start with something. Write down a little mission statement and a couple core values you think you care about. And then test it that week. Do you actually care? And what you're going to do is you're going to narrow it down. And you're going to come down to a couple that are tried and true and represent yourself. You know, the third, this is what my dad always used to say to us: if you're going to be a bear, you might as well be a grizzly. And that's it, right? Like, that's how I approach things. If I say yes, I'm it.
There's things that we all could learn from your dad. I just have to hear one thing like that, and I'm like, of course Greg's who he is. I mean, that's a big statement.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. Like, that guy was serious about life. He was probably fun. Like, you have an awesome personality. You like to laugh and the big smile. Like, people like being around you. But even when a grizzly's having a good day and ate plenty of berries, he's still looking for the big meal to crush, right?
Yes. Right. It's just full commitment. If you're going to do something, do it right.
Well, we learned that when we were like in kindergarten. I mean, somebody told us that.
Yep.
And so why do so many people fall short? This isn't judgmental, but this is for people to realize, like, themselves, if they're not living up to the standards they want for their life, if they're not competing, if they're not participating in an excellent life, it's because, you know, they're not showing up with excellence every day. So how can someone take this place and they just know, like, man, life ain't happening, and my life's not great, and I really don't feel like giving amazing effort, and you know, how's this thing going to get better? I just know it's so simple once you understand it, and they just have to choose to be out on this journey. But what I know is, to so many folks, it feels hard, man. Like,
Yeah.
it really feels hard to do things great.
Yep.
It feels hard.
It is hard.
Is it hard because it takes extra?
It's hard because you have to sacrifice so much.
There you go.
That's why it's hard. Because eating right is hard. Everybody wants to eat ice cream and drink brown liquor. That's all we want to do.
Yep.
Right? Like, hey, what's for lunch? Ice cream and bourbon. That sounds wonderful. Well, in a couple hours, you're not going to be feeling great. And so it's the sacrifice that's hard. And so then it gets into how committed are you
To what, the goal?
to anything? If you're committed to excellence, like, well, if your freezer's filled with the world's best ice cream, that's hard to open that freezer and see it all right there.
Yeah, you're going to lose that battle.
You're going to lose that battle.
Yeah.
You stay in a barbershop long enough, you're getting a haircut.
There you go. You got one today. I can tell he's looking good, man. The Commanders didn't do that for you. He got a haircut, so we appreciate that you did. I don't want to keep you all day, man, because really, I think what I've learned about life is, like, at some point we got to shut the heck up and, like, get on with it. And that's what I want people to do. I want them to do, all the people that work with me and that I'm responsible for leading. And, even when I see great potential in them, I'm like, just go and do it and deal with the outcome, what it is. Like, I'll keep you alive. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to keep you on the road. Like, I don't want you to end up in the ditch, but if you end up in the ditch, like, hopefully you can get back up and drive the car again, but just get busy and go. And so many people every day, even the best people I work with, the ones that I really like the most, they just have a problem and just going without knowing the complete trajectory and knowing, like, get out a map and map where you want to go. There's going to be a lot of treacherous stuff that happens. And there's just no way that you can prepare yourself to totally know all the battles and all the pitfalls are going to be there. You just aren't going to know.
Yep.
And just get busy and get rolling. So, I don't think most of us are going to meet a guy like you in person unless you start feeling like Madison Square Garden or something, man, and selling tickets for $300 and going and buying the $100 million yacht. I don't know. Maybe you're on that journey.
Who knows?
Yeah. What do you think you're going to do for the rest of 2025? And I asked that question from the standpoint of, like, maybe there's something we can garner from that. Like, you're sitting here as a early 40s guy that still has a lot of life in front of him that's going to do a lot of big things, approaching this with the idea of excellence in everything you do. What do you believe you're going to accomplish? Because we say goals are important. What do you believe about this year for you?
I'm launching a couple new companies in the next couple weeks. I'm excited about that. I'm on the book tour, excited about that. Doing a podcast, a limited podcast series on the book, excited about that. Been doing some coaching and advising to people. That's fun. Excited about that. Launched a school program for just courses of frequently asked questions that people ask me about. How do you get to your most optimal state? How do you deal with suffering? So that has been an interesting process, getting all that information down. And then I think I was working on it yesterday. I'm going to start some leadership retreats. I live on a really cool farm and a lot of space to do a lot of cool stuff. So I think I'm going to be announcing that in the next coming weeks. But that's going to take up this year.
That's a decade. You said you were excited about all those things.
Yeah.
What aren't you excited about?
Right now, nothing.
You're an inspiration. The man said he is only excited about everything and not worrying, distressed, consumed by anything that he's not excited about. You're a special guy. I guess people are going to come to the farm, wherever that is. I don't know. Maybe you're like Dan Payne. You're going to go to the castle in Scotland. Maybe you're going to make your thing that. Is it going to be an angry moment they're going to come to, like with Dan, like he yells at you and insults you and makes you feel like you're the worst human ever?
I don't think I need to do that, but I am an honest guy. So if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the facts. I think everybody has their own kind of way that they like to be coached. Some people like to be yelled at. Others just want the facts. I used to yell when I was a younger man. I thought that was more impactful. I try not to now.
Go buy the book, right?
Yeah.
That's your message. Buy the book, Undressed. What's the best place to find it? We all know the place where we most go most often.
Yeah, just Amazon, and then the audiobooks on Audible. And then
And what about
wanna
social? What's the
sign-
one place to come find you?
GregoryVetter.com or just social media. I'm on social media for the first time again in like 7 years. So
Okay, I wasn't going to ask more questions, but why that?
why am I back on?
Yep.
Because I fully commit to stuff. So, the book, I'm on the book tour. People are asking if they can follow me and give insights and stuff. And I'm like, ugh. So now I'm back on it. And, I've hired people to help manage it. And, I only know how to do things one way. If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. So I'm all in on it.
I'm excited to watch the journey of the resurgence on social because I went and checked out Instagram. It's our job to like, hey, who's this guy we're talking about? He looks special, but he hasn't shown himself to be special for a little while. Right. And so I looked at Instagram. I was like, man, he's only posted 34 things. I looked at my team. I'm like, what the hell? Right? Like our stuff's not that good that often, but what the hell, 34? But I'm like, oh, he's doing some stuff. So I'm excited. It's almost like Greg Vetter's been reborn.
Yeah, something.
Awesome, man. So he's got the website, y'all. Just follow his name and Google it, and you will find the man. And the book Undressed, the unfiltered story of my failed American dream and how it led to success. That's intriguing enough for me to read. Thanks for joining us. I think we're going to hear a lot more. You're this nice guy, and we started out before the recording, and I'm like, man, who am I talking to? Tom Selleck today? Is this Magnum PI? And we had a story about it. But I think you're an awesome dude, man. I appreciate you getting out here and showing the world something because there's still a lot of people in our country and worldwide that are looking for the answer. And there's people like you that need to give them the hard message about be honest with yourself, be around people that'll tell you the truth, and just go do the work.
Yep.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with us. And I guess go talk to another NFL team too. Go have them get a win or some stuff, right?
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, brother. Have an awesome weekend and go read the book.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate you.